Hello and welcome back to the Eagle Insights podcast. I am your host, Henry Conti, the communications coordinator for the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Local School District. I'm excited I was able to get back in the lab again and get y'all another podcast, and this is an exciting one because we have state champion Jada Weiss with us. If you don't know Jada, she became Bellbrook's first female individual state champion, winning the state wrestling tournament at 155 on March 9th in overtime. This one has some great videos and images of the weekend provided to us by Charlie Odell, Nick Falzerano, and Steven Wright of the Xenia Gazette. So thanks to all of them. Jada tells us all about the weekend and all the things that have gone into her journey to become a state champion. She is a great kid, so stick around. It's coming up right now. Cue the Eagle. Jada, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And congratulations on being the first female state champion here at Bellbrook, individual female state champion here at Bellbrook.
Thank you.
What's the support been like from the community?
I honestly didn't expect so much support, but as soon as I know Charlie Odell, our AD, does a lot of good work on the sports page and like updating it, and he put a tremendous amount out there, especially for just one person. Like, I'm not a whole team of people or anything. I was getting so many texts from people, just peers from my school, but they were all texting me, telling me good luck, and then after it happened, like, congrats and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
There was a lot of support, and they painted the rock in front of the high school, and a couple people, there was supposed to be a police escort, but I think they messed up the time with that.
Yeah. Hard to know when somebody's getting back from Columbus after all the
we didn't get home till like 12, but there were still people there waiting for me. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Charlie did a great job keeping all of us updated. I run the school page for social media, so I was just playing off him and using his stuff. And,
yeah.
He was excited to be there and support you as well. But you've been to the state meet before. This is your third time there.
Yeah.
What was it like going in this time, knowing senior year? This is your last shot.
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure. I mean, I feel like personally I put a lot of pressure on myself because I feel that other people have expectations of me and how I should do, not just myself, but other people. So knowing that, like, if I lose 2 matches, that it was like my last time in high school wrestling, it was a lot of pressure.
We can talk about district for a second. You lost in the semifinals there.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was probably disappointing.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the last part of that, which is you lost to the person you eventually beat in the state finals.
Yeah.
But what was coming out of district? Were you disappointed or motivated, or maybe a little bit of both?
It was a little bit of both. The girl that I wrestled in the district semifinals, it's been a little bit of back and forth. I wrestled her a bit last year, and in the beginning of the year, I lost to her. I wasn't really wrestling as well as I could have, so I was pretty upset about it, but it was understandable, like, hey, this is something we can make a change in. And then districts last year, I beat her 7-0. So going into it, I had no idea what was going to happen because I hadn't seen her since pretty much an entire year.
Gotcha.
But it was upsetting, but at the same time, I'm glad it happened when it did because I feel like I won the match that really mattered in the end. So
yeah, I mean, obviously there's some evidence for that.
Yeah.
So talk me a little bit through the weekend. Your first match was against the girl from Canal Winchester. You won that 7-2. That was Friday. First match. Get the jitters out of the way.
I mean, there were a lot of nerves. I'm a stomach problems person, so like it was, my stomach was pretty upset. But going into it, I did wrestle a bit timid. I mean, I didn't really take any shots, but after that first match was out of the way, I definitely felt a lot better. I mean, I was still nervous for all the other matches, but the very first match is kind of like what sets you on the path for the rest of it. So if I would have lost, I think I would have had probably a different outlook on it.
Gotcha. Is it a case of just the people there, or was it going through your head like, this is my last shot at this? Like, why, the third time there, why so many nerves?
I think it was just like my last shot kind of thing. Like, this was my last opportunity to like really prove myself especially after last year. I was ranked as high as like second at the end, and then I kind of let my nerves get to me, and I went 1 and 2, and I didn't even place.
Yeah.
And so I was like looking back on it, and it was upsetting because I had put in so much work for it, and I'm like, why is my work not showing? So it was important this year that like this is my last chance, like prove that you've done what it takes to be here. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so Saturday matches, girl from Austintown Finch, 11-9 win. What was that one like?
That one was probably the closest match. There was a lot of scrambling in that one, but I could tell that the girl was nervous when we were about to walk onto the mat, especially since she wasn't there until like right before. I was in the tunnel waiting, and they called me and they called her name, and then she wasn't there, and so I was there, and that gave me a little bit of confidence. Also knowing that she's a freshman, not necessarily that her skills weren't there, because you can have freshmen that are way better than seniors. There's freshmen that win state. Like, grade doesn't really matter necessarily in that sense, but also that like that was her first time there. So it's like I felt like I had a little bit of a leg up in that one, but it was definitely a close match.
All right, and then the semifinal match, which a lot of people don't kind of know what happened, because if you're following from home, which kind of I was, and just looking at the brackets and kind of updating, it just said medical default.
Yeah.
Read a little bit this morning from our friends at the Xenia Gazette that you were actually kind of dominating that match a little bit. It was 13-4, and then the medical default happened towards the very end.
Yeah.
Talk us through a little bit about that. How do you go up against an undefeated wrestler for the season and just kind of dominate?
Well, that was probably single-handedly the most important match to me. In a previous tournament at Olentangy, I wrestled her in the finals, and that was the match where I hurt my ankle and I was out for a little bit. Maybe it was just her and her personality, but that match was really important for me to win. So I feel like I was really locked in for that match. So during the match, I was trying to take more shots, because sometimes I feel like I struggle to take shots and I'm more on the defensive, but offense is normally what wins matches. So I was just really focused on that. It was unfortunate that it had to end like that she had to default with 3 seconds left, but I can understand from her standpoint, like if you're undefeated, you probably don't want that one loss on your record or stuff like that, and so it's understandable.
When you wrestled her earlier in the season, you said you hurt your ankle, so did you kind of lose that match because of the ankle injury, or you didn't get to wrestle her, or what was...
That's the thing that I was unsure about. There's lots of people who get to wrestle their like the number 1 ranked person in their weight class multiple times, and so I was excited because I was like, this is my chance to see like how I measure up and how I compare. And I hurt my ankle, I believe, in either the end of the first or beginning of the second period. And quite honestly, I probably should have medical forfeited the match, but I was sitting there and I was like, I need to see how well I can do, and it didn't go very well. I was on bottom, and I was like, I could barely even sit here, but that's what I was unsure about also going into state wrestling with her, because I was like, I don't know how much I did last time, so we'll see how it measures up this time when I'm better.
So even going into it, then you don't feel like you had a really good feeling about how you two matched up?
Pretty much.
Gotcha. All right, and then obviously the final match against Natalie Carlisle of Lebanon, who you mentioned, you wrestled before a couple times. What was your thought process going in and all that?
So I'm a very big overthinker, and I talk to my parents and my coaches a lot about mindset, because as much as the physical aspect matters, wrestling is one of those sports where it's like your mental, and this can happen in any sport, but mental matters extremely. Like if you're not in the right mindset, you can lose to anybody. Like things can happen quickly. So I was just trying to remind myself about all the things that I had put in to be there, and that was where I belonged, and I had earned my spot to be there. So just reminding myself like all the work that I had put in and that I had made it there for a reason.
Gotcha. So, but how did the actual match go for you?
So in the beginning, so I was up 1-0, I believe, from an escape. And then she took me down. And in my head, I honestly was really panicking. I was like, oh, it's 3-1. Like, since the rule changed, it's not a takedown isn't 2 anymore, it's 3. And I was kind of panicking in my head, but I knew that I couldn't let like the panicking get to me, or else that's the way I would lose the match. So I just kept trying to take shots and wear her down. And at the end, it was pretty tight because she was backing up for most of the time, which is stalling, but I mean, the rest, it's all up to their own discretion. So people in the crowd, like my dad, my brother, people I knew, they were all yelling stalling. And I think within like the last couple seconds, I got the stall call to tie it up. And then when it went into overtime, I knew that she wasn't going to take any shots, just like from previously wrestling her. I didn't think that she was going to. So I tried to stay on the offense, and honestly, a lot of those shots were not very good. I wasn't really trying to get an angle or anything, but I figured that if I kept shooting, eventually she would either get a stall call again, or I would get a shot and get the takedown. But yeah.
And it worked out.
It did, yeah.
Right at the end of overtime. Obviously, if you don't get that one there, it's just going to go to another overtime.
Yeah, and then that would have been a whole nother story with ultimate ride out and like top bottom and all that, so.
So all of this does not happen without the work.
Yeah.
Like, when did this entire journey start for you? When did you start wrestling?
I started in 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had to guess how many hours you have put in a wrestling gym between 7th grade and now.
I don't even know. I mean.
Unfair question. But it's been, fair to say, it's been a good portion of your free time.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So talk about that. How many, like, hours are you, and we don't need a number, but how many hours are you in the gym working on wrestling? How many hours are you in the gym weightlifting, outside running, whatever it might be? Obviously, you also play soccer, so you kind of get to count that as another workout towards wrestling if you want to.
So it's changed a lot throughout the years. Wrestling, when I was in middle school, soccer was my focus. And I was like, soccer's what I want to do. Soccer's important to me. And so wrestling was just kind of an afterthought. But as I got through it and went through middle school and got to high school, I fell a little bit short in soccer. And I kind of lost my love for the sport a little bit, and I think that kind of opened the door for me to become more interested in wrestling. So that's when I really became serious about it. So it's changed a lot throughout the years, but back when we had Ben Schramm as our coach, we would do morning conditionings before school at 6 in the morning. We'd run and do other stuff like that. Freshman year for soccer, I was still really committed to soccer at that point. And so running was a big part of it. So I started the beginning of the summer running 3 miles every day, but then eventually worked myself up to running 10 miles every day for soccer. So I think that definitely helped in the conditioning aspect of it. But this year and junior year especially, not necessarily with the conditioning was in the practices, but definitely put the time in with the practices there, because we would have 2-hour-long practices Monday through Friday. And then my younger brother, Hayden, he wrestles at Alter, so I kind of know some of the people over there. So then after my practice on Tuesday and Thursday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, I would go from my practice over to their practice for another hour and a half, 2 hours. So, yeah.
So it's just hour after hour. There is no off season, like maybe take a week or two off here or there. Yeah,
pretty much. And wrestling's a very long season too. Like we start in November, and then if you make it to state, like you're not done until mid-March. So it's a long season. And over winter too, it's like sometimes it can be a little bit down because the weather isn't super nice out, but it's definitely it's a grind for sure.
Gotcha. Have you made a college commitment yet?
I have.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Otterbein.
Otterbein, and wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You don't get to where you are without a whole lot of help. Mm-hmm. So is there anyone you want to thank?
There's so many people that I could thank. My dad and my mom, of course. I mean, they obviously have lives too, but they've made it important to them to come to every sporting event that I have and always be there for me. Definitely my coaches, Mike, Bobby, Shram, even though he's not here anymore, Ben Sherrill, Ron Wiederholt, all of them were making sure that I pushed myself in practice and just always doing my best, even if that's not exactly what I wanted to do, if I was tired or didn't feel like doing it, but they allowed me to have the space to push myself and to be there for me. Probably my coaches from Alter too. They're kind of like a second family for me. And I mean, there's too many to count, but all of them over there too. And just, I honestly didn't expect the amount of support from the community, like all of the teachers and all the students, but yeah.
And teammates, I assume too.
And my teammates. I mean, they could be buttheads sometimes, but yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into the flyby. Instead of favorite food, I'm going to ask, what is when making weight was no longer a concern? What is the first thing you ate?
Honestly, I can't even lie. The food wasn't even that important to me. It was really the drinks.
Okay.
Like water was the first thing I would do. I'd probably chug an entire water bottle.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well then, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food? Probably be steak.
Steak?
Yeah.
Favorite drink besides water?
Probably apple juice.
Okay.
I like some apple juice.
Fair enough. What is the go-to emoji when you're texting friends?
Probably the one that's like crying, but I don't use it in like a crying sense. I use it in like a crying, laughing sense. Like.
Gotcha. All right. Favorite TV show or movie?
That's tough. There's a lot of movies that are really good. I'd probably have to say either The Sandlot or The Goonies.
Very nice. You're bringing them back to my generation. What is the go-to quote? What is something you say to yourself either on the mat or in class or just in quiet moments?
I do like the quote that I gave for Xenia Gazette. That was a good one. But one of them I like is, I think it was, practice like you've never won and play like you've never lost. I think that's a good one.
I like that. And then finally, if you could go back to the start of this wrestling journey, 7th grade, when you started, what would you tell yourself and would you listen?
I would probably tell myself that everything will work out in the end. I'm a very big believer of everything happens for a reason and that everything goes accordingly because, I mean, God has a plan for you. And so I think that I would tell myself that not to worry and overthink so much. And I would hope that I would listen, but to be honest, I don't know if I would.
All right, fair enough. Jada, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
An amazing young lady, and I was privileged to get to speak to her. All right, on to the ego droppings. Spring break runs March 24th through the 28th, and classes resume on March 31st. When we return, we have the District Art Show on April 5th, the Music Boosters meeting on April 7th, PTO meeting on April 8th, Board of Education meeting on April 10th. April 12th is the Supportive Peers Easter Extravaganza. Athletic Boosters will meet on April 16th. There is no school on April 18th going into the Easter weekend. On April 24th, we have another Board of Education meeting. The military ball is that night. And on April 25th, we have a 2-hour early dismissal. The high school musical Anastasia will run May 1st through 3rd. And then we get into May and all sorts of stuff happening, and we don't have time for that now. Thank you all for joining us. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And go ahead and give some love to this on social media and tell Jada what you think about her winning the state title. Thank you all for listening. Go out there and have a good day, and if it can't be a good one, make it a great one.